a month and a half now to the opening of the wildfowl season, and for once I thought I'd try and get ahead of the game and load up a stock of shells so I'm not running hand to mouth like I have been doing the last couple of years, when I've been running out the supply flat every night and virtually having to reload then next night before going out. So it'd be nice to get rid of, load up that back stock of various types of shot. One big development, or certainly for me over the, well, roughly from the end of last season to this season, is the I wouldn't say development of, but availability of these new Jocker cardboard wads. Obviously non-toxic, not plastic, aren't going to last in the environment for very long. So potentially, I'll say potentially, people have used them at the end of last season and they seem to perform well, even with non-toxic loads, steel, and even TSS or tungsten super shot. They seem to be holding up. So that's a huge step forward, because it's a big Achilles heel of a lot of wildfowling is that we're still forced, or we have been forced to still use plastic wads, mostly with the non-toxic loads, well, apart from bismuth, I guess. And I think we're just still really at the front edge of biodegradable wads. I think that they are available in some non-toxic loads, some of these ones that break down after a few weeks or a few months or even a few years. There is some suppliers, I think Ely are one of them, Eco Wads to name one example. But for the home loader, there haven't been many alternatives, and certainly the big manufacturers don't release their woods for home loaders. So the development or the availability of these Jocker wads, if they work, is a big step forward. It'd be nice just to go out and not leave anything apart from a bit of confetti. That's what these seem to end up as, although it looks a wee bit messy out on the field or on the marsh, that they end up, just in a million pieces of paper. That paper will disappear. So yeah, just going to load up have been loading up quite a few different loads. Some subsonic number 7s, all for 12 obviously. Number 8, just normal speed. I'll say normal speed, 1200 feet a second, which is for me is normal. I don't really like any faster than about 1200 feet a second. I just think the patterns are the best around that speed. Number 8s for geese or ducks or whatever. Subsonics for shooting on local marshes, where I try to keep the noise down a wee bit. But so yeah, I'll just gonna load a couple up. 2 3/4 inch or 70mm case, and a corresponding Jocker wad. There's a few models around. This is one with a 9mm, you can't really see, it's a bit dark in here, a 9mm insert in it, which is it's kind of come pre-manufactured, just with a bit of a built-up wad. Useful for the TSS, which is so dense, it just saves or economizes on felt inserts, felt wadding. Don't have to put so much in if they already come with a kind of cardboard insert in the bottom. The one compromise I'm still going to make for the time being, at least, is to use a mylar wrap, or I'm not sure if it is actually mylar, I think it's something very similar. Overhead projector sheet wrap, which no one uses anymore. It's largely obsolete, so I can get it quite cheaply and locally available, shall we say. This is the compromise I'm still using for now on the TSS loads. I'm still going to just line the inside of the wad with a piece of that, just to reduce the chances of the pellets forcing themselves out through the wad. And it's an easier compromise to make, because that little piece of mylar doesn't fly far out the barrel at all. In most cases, unless you're firing right over water, this only goes 6-10 feet from the barrel, and it obviously doesn't go anywhere. It's easier to collect and pick up. So for the time being, I'm going to stick with that. It's a lot better than having that and the plastic wad and potentially even a plastic gas seal going out there. So it's still a big net improvement. I better put some powder in the case. That would help. Bit of make. Down. What next? All a bit rusty on this loading since last year. It was fairly automatic. I've got to constantly think about what I'm doing. I'm referring to the load data. This is just an ounce. More pellets are better. Yeah. Just trying to remember what an ounce was in grains. 437. We'll take a pellet. Near enough. Near enough. Past being totally precious over the exact weight. Funny load this in that if I put in an extra 1/8 packer, it brings it up too much. So, and what I tend to do is put there's 2 1/4 ounce felts underneath, one on top, give it a bit of compression, and an overshot guard. And simple Lee Loadall press gives it half decent crimp, and then in the vise. Simple as that. Looks good enough. So BN2 finisher just gives it a wee taper, so it just helps it cycle through semi-automatics or just a loading anything just a wee bit easier with just that slight taper on the edge. So that's it. So haven't fired any of these Jocker wads at anything resembling live game yet. We're just out on the target through the chronograph and just pattern testing them. What I have found so far is, even though that it's a very snug fit compared to some of the plastic gas seals you use, you'd think the pressure would be equal to or exceed like for like plastic wad and plastic gas seal loads, but it doesn't tend to work like that, possibly because it's a weaker wad or the obturation process works a bit differently. But like for like, or powder charge and shot charge being all things being equal on those fronts, I seem to be, or the Jocker wads seem to result in roughly around 100 feet per second less than the same load in a standard plastic wad. And I used to use the TPS wads in 12, or the Girolandi wads. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but anyway. So like for like, the Jocker wads do seem to throw slower speeds at the same powder charges. I haven't had any of mine tested yet, and I'm not giving any load data away here. So you load at your own risk. These are untested loads, but I would say there's likely to be a slight drop in pressure along with that, although I'll bank on that. So yeah, the speed is dropping a bit, so I've had to account for that in the subsonic loads, because obviously I'm used to loading on the plastic wads for something around 1,000 feet per second, and when I use the same powder charge I was getting 850, 900, so I had to bump it up. I do like to go subsonic, but still keep it as fast as possible. You can go out and buy some of the factory subsonic loads in 12 or 410 or 20 or whatever, and they're ridiculously slow. I don't know how well they do work, because I've shot things with them, but the speeds are right down at 600, 650, 700 feet a second typically. Subsonic doesn't mean you need to get too slow, and I found around 1,000 feet per second it's quite enough, but still, obviously it's still carrying a bit of energy. I'm probably only going to load subsonics in the TSS this year, and possibly bismuth number 3s, just to keep the killing power up. I did find last year that although the subsonics killed everything that I shot at, including geese, big grey-lag geese, killed them as well as anything else, and a normal speed load, I was finding more instances of the pellets at the back of the breast muscles up against the sternum, such like it was coming across more pellets. And with tungsten and the hardness of it, it's quite a threat to people's dental states, these pellets. Rather, it's not like biting down on a piece of lead or bismuth. So I don't know, but we'll give them another season. I might load up some subsonic number 3s in bismuth, because I did shoot quite a few geese and ducks of those last year. And if you do come across one in your meal, it's going to be less hazardous. So yeah, quite a step forward, non-toxic option. And I guess there'll be quite a few people, certainly in the wildfowling brigade, testing or using these this year. So we'll get quite a sample size, I would say, by the end of the season. Not that I don't believe there's some guys who were shooting a lot of geese through 20 bores and 12s last year and didn't report any issues with them. But we'll obviously have quite a data set by the end of this next season and see how we get on. But yeah, quite a step forward. But with the lead ban, the overall lead ban coming over the hill, I don't know what that's going to do for the supply, or not the supply as much, although the supply has been affected recently by all the wars, but there's going to be a big shift. Obviously, the big cartridge manufacturers will be thinking about where they're going to go with the non-toxic wads for every other form of game and pigeon shooting and everything else out there. Incidentally, as a falconer, a former falconer, there are a lot of pigeon men that use steel loads now, more than you'd think, for the very reason is that they can recycle the pigeons or wood pigeons that they shoot. They can sell to falconers or bird of prey breeders, bird of prey centres, anyone with raptors, all too willing to buy steel shot wood pigeons, I guess provided obviously with a little caveat that they've been shot in line, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm out of practice. In line with general licence conditions for crop protection, etc., etc. There is a market for wood pigeons shot with steel shot and non-toxic shot. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the industry makes the switch over the next 3 years. I don't know, not everyone's in agreement with it or on board with it yet, but that is the reality that everyone's going to have to get used to. Bismuth is another potential issue with supply. I understand that the supply lines from China have either been cut off or it's ridiculously expensive. Most of the bismuth and the tungsten super shot comes from China. I was lucky enough to get a supply in before the start of this season that should last me most or all of the season. But we'll just go out now and test, just as a way, just put some of these through an audio test through the new moderator. We'll put a couple, not many, because they're too flipping expensive to test with really, but we're going to just pattern test one of these subsonics and also compare them through the moderator against some standard clay loads, see what the noise reduction is like. So anyway, see you in the field soon, and yeah, welcome.